You know, I get this question a lot, and I think a lot of people kind of look at themselves as being introverted, and really it doesn't matter. I had a guy in my podcast. He's a psychologist out of Indianapolis, Tim Scher, and he's got a great podcast called the How to Be Mesmerizing podcast. And we talked about this, and it was very enlightening the perspective of a psychologist. And he said there are really four types of people at networking events, or four people out there networking in general. It doesn't have to be a networking event. I mean, if you stop and think about it, Dom, you go to a tailgate, it's a networking event. You're talking to somebody at the checkout line, that's a networking event. It's a networking opportunity. And so let's just talk in general sense and networking opportunities to have conversations. And so he says, there are really four types of people. There is the wallflower, the person who we'll call them the introvert, the person who just doesn't want any part of it. And there's also the person who he termed the class clown, the person who, kind of yucking it up. Then there's the person who is overly aggressive, pushing whatever they have to sell. And then there's the person who is, not the wallflower, not the class clown, but out there having reasonable small talk with people. And he said the common thread between all those people is insecurities, in that everybody has insecurities. And the person who's the wallflower has insecurities, and that's the reason they're the wallflower. I don't fit in, I don't belong, I don't really know how to talk, I don't feel comfortable, so they're going to be the wallflower. The class clown has insecurities, and how they deal with their insecurities is to simply yuck it up. Hey, if I'm laughing, if I'm making people laugh, then I don't really feel so insecure about myself. And the person who's overly aggressive, they're insecure and they just feel like they need to make the sale, they need to make the sale now, or they're just going to lose the opportunity. And the person who's well-adjusted has insecurities as well, but is well-adjusted and learns how to deal with them. And so, the introvert, they just need to really kind of come to grips with just being well-adjusted. And so my advice it's kind of a long lead into your question, but my advice to the introvert is, one, don't worry about what you have to say. Focus in on what you're going to get the other person saying. And that's really the trick to small talk. Come in armed with a series of questions that you can get the other person talking. You're meeting somebody, where are you from, making a comment about something and getting them talking. If I go to somebody and say, okay, where are you, wow, you kind of got an accent, where are you from? Then they're going to tell me, oh, I moved here from California. Oh, really? What made you move to the Midwest from California? Well, there's a story there, right? And you let them tell that story. And as they tell that story, you listen and you have things that you can add to that. And then there are things that, other questions that you can follow up with, but you keep going back to them and getting them to talk and, just listening and validating what they have to say, understanding and validating them. And that helps build that relationship, and you don't really have to say a whole lot. So that's my first response to introverts. My second response to introverts is what I recommend. I run into this all the time. What I recommend people do is find something you're passionate about. It may be your church, it may be something in the community, maybe something in the school, and volunteer. Find an opportunity to volunteer, because when you volunteer, you put yourself out there with other people who care about the same things you care about. When you put yourself out there, you show that you care. And people are attracted to those people who are contributing to the world around them. So you've kind of demonstrated that you're that type of person. And from that, they start to develop a relationship with you. And that's all networking is. It's just developing relationships with people, whether it's personal or professional. It's just developing relationships with others.